Accurate diagnosis is crucial in determining appropriate treatment plans. The current DSM-5 lists 22 major diagnostic categories of mental disorders comprising over 150 discrete illnesses. Though challenging, committing these disorders to memory is essential for optimal patient care. The purpose of this video is to facilitate memorization of these 22 diagnostic groups of mental disorders listed in DSM-5 using associative memorization. For a complete list of diagnoses and their diagnostic criteria, you will need to refer to DSM-5. But knowing all of the diagnostic categories is a good place to start. Associating a new piece of information with something that is already known is the key mechanism of this technique. Incorporating visual cues and a bit of imagination enhances the association process and results in better retention and recall of information. We will employ all these strategies in this DSM-5 calendar video. Please note that this calendar begins with Monday and not with Sunday. As clinicians, of course we work 24/7, but in many other professions, the work week starts with Monday. And in this calendar video, we are going to assign Monday to be the first day of our week. This will help us to make our associations for memorization easier. The idea here is to associate each day of the week with several diagnostic categories of DSM-5 using associative link between each day of the week and particular diagnosis. As you follow this video, you realize that DSM-5 calendar mnemonic is not as confusing as it might appear initially. Let's start with Monday. The Monday is the beginning of the week. Here is a visual cue representing beginning. Therefore, it is easy to associate it with the diagnostic category of neurodevelopmental disorders because they manifest and diagnosed in the beginning of human life. For example, intellectual disabilities, communication disorders, autism spectrum disorders, ADHD, and others. We're also going to add a category of neurocognitive disorders like delirium and different types of dementia into Monday because this category also starts with prefix neuro, similarly to neurodevelopmental group. And in the whole DSM-5, there are only 2 diagnostic categories that start with prefix neuro. So it will be easy to remember that they both placed together. Tuesday. Tuesday is the second day of the week, day number 2, making it easy for us to associate it with something that has element of duality or bipolarity, like yin and yang concept, for example, represented by this visual cue. Keeping this in mind, it will be easy to associate Tuesday with a category of bipolar disorders that characterized by severe mood swings between depression and elation. We are also going to include depressive disorders here because when we think of bipolar disorder, we remember about depressive phase. Important to note that in DSM-5, disruptive mood dysregulation disorder is classified as one of the depressive disorders. Wednesday. Wednesday is the most challenging, but at the same time the most exciting part of this memorization project. Let's first associate Wednesday with a wedding, as both words have phonetic resemblance. Now, let's visualize a wedding that got taken over by millions of huge toads that are everywhere now. After we can see this picture in our mind's eye and imagine what the guests of this event are going through, we can link Wednesday wedding with 5 diagnostic categories that conveniently make acronym of TOADS. As we go through this acronym, some hints will be provided on how to associate each diagnostic group with this day of the week that is represented by wedding and TOADS. Feel free to use your own associations if they work better for you. Let's look at the acronym TOADS. T for trauma and stress-related disorders. It is easy to imagine that some of the guests, after being attacked by giant toads, would develop acute stress disorder, adjustment disorder, or even PTSD. Keep in mind that one of the specifiers for PTSD is dissociative symptoms. It will be helpful to remember because a whole separate diagnostic category of dissociative disorders is also part of TOAD's acronym. You will see it later. O. O stands for obsessive compulsive and related disorders. We can associate this OCD category with the wedding because let's imagine planning of a wedding and preparation for it would involve some elements of obsession and compulsion. A for anxiety disorders. We will remember it because it is no doubt that any wedding, even without TOADs, could be an anxiety-provoking event. D stands for dissociative disorders here. To associate this category with the wedding and TOAD scene, let's imagine that some guests who witnessed their venue being taken over by huge toads would feel that this is an unreal situation or some sort of distortion of reality. These feelings and sensations are essential features of derealization disorder, which belongs to category of dissociative disorders. Also, let's recall what we just said about PTSD with its specifiers of dissociative symptoms that include depersonalization and derealization. Putting it all together, we will always remember this category of dissociative disorders when we think of our Wednesday wedding. And finally, S. S stands here for somatic symptom and related disorders. This group of disorders categorized by marked preoccupation with the body and fears of disease or consequences of disease like death. To associate this category with our wedding scene, let's imagine that some wedding guests developed minor skin rash after being in contact with the toads, and now they all have high levels of anxiety because of fear of dying from toads exposure. I know it is a bit of a stretch, nevertheless, it works. Now, it should be very easy to recall all of these 5 diagnostic categories assigned to Wednesday with the help of visual scene of wedding with toads and using TOAD's acronym. Thursday. Thursday is an easy part of this mnemonic. It has only 2 diagnostic categories. With a little stretch, we can realize that the word Thursday sounds similar to some degree as the word thorazine. Thorazine is the first antipsychotic agent that has primarily been used to treat psychotic disorders such as schizophrenia. Once we associate Thursday and thorazine, we can easily remember that Thursday will remind us of schizophrenia spectrum and other psychotic disorders. Furthermore, every time we use medications, we must consider their potential side effects. Since thorazine is one of the first-generation antipsychotics, we always have to keep in mind at least extrapyramidal side effects. Hence, we're also going to associate thorazine Thursday with the diagnostic category of medication-induced movement disorders and other adverse effects of medication. Friday. Association for Friday will be a Friday night, represented by this disco ball here. Let's use imagination and visualize a busy nightclub with all sorts of disinhibited and strange people who are engaged in various shady, unhealthy, and dangerous activities on the premises of the nightclub. Once we see this image, we can easily associate 3 diagnostic categories with this scene. Substance-related and addictive disorders, that also includes non-substance related disorder such as gambling, disruptive, impulse control and conduct disorders, and personality disorders. Saturday. After visiting a nightclub on Friday, it will be logical to associate Saturday with consequences of the night before. We are going to call it status post Friday night. Let's also add bedroom, kitchen, and bathroom to the description, as these 3 places likely would be the most needed after coming home in the morning from a nightclub. Bedroom, kitchen, and bathroom will help us to associate 6 diagnostic categories that are assigned to Saturday. Bedroom. Bedroom will remind us of sleep-wake disorders. Bedroom can also be easily associated with diagnostic categories related to human sexuality, such as sexual dysfunctions, gender dysphoria, and paraphilic disorders. Kitchen will be associated with feeding and eating disorders, and bathroom with elimination disorders. Feel free to make your own associations with these diagnostic groups. Keeping in mind bedroom, kitchen, and bathroom should be very helpful for that. And finally, we reach Sunday. Sunday is a good day to visit grandmother. Let's acknowledge that the word grandmother has other in it. Perhaps we can remember it better if every other Sunday we are going to visit other grandmother. Once we link the word other to Sunday, it will be easy to associate two diagnostic categories with Sunday that both have other in their titles. Other mental disorders and other conditions that may be a focus of clinical attention. Let's briefly go over what these other disorders consist of. Other mental disorders category includes disorders that do not meet full criteria for any of the previously described mental disorders. For example, specified or unspecified mental disorders due to another medical condition. An example of this would be dissociative symptoms secondary to temporal lobe epilepsy. This category also includes mental disorders in which symptoms are present but subthreshold for any mental disorder. And other conditions that may be a focus of clinical attention include conditions that interfere with overall functioning but are not severe enough to warrant psychiatric diagnosis. These conditions are not mental disorders, but they may aggravate an existing mental disorder. For example, abuse and neglect, or relational problems in the family or with a primary support group. This concludes the DSM-5 calendar mnemonic. Hopefully you found it fun and helpful, and will have no difficulties in recalling all of this information when needed. Thank you.